So most of my career, as I mentioned, 30 years in chemicals, doing something with controls and data. We in chemical processing, it's I'm sure very similar to oil and gas, where you have regulatory control or standard control loops, advanced process control loops, safety. You're always worried about too many alarms that don't mean anything. You want to build logic for your assets, your reactors and heat exchangers, and you're concerned about unit quality and of course, your overall efficiency. Well, everything you do in manufacturing requires a good source of data and the people to be able to assign value to it. And I've spent years, starting in the 90s, downloading data into spreadsheets, trying to analyze what exactly is happening. And I would compare the actual data with specifications of the instrumentation. Is it configured properly? Is the transmitter set up right in the field? We started to export data out of the control systems into a database so we could look for common configuration errors that could lead to problems. And then we got a little more advanced, and wherever we had a dynamic simulator, we would compare the online dynamic simulator with the sensors in the field to see, okay, if there's a problem that the operator is experiencing, does it actually show up in our simulator as well, meaning that there's a process problem and not just a transmitter problem. So it was one way we would troubleshoot. And then we, with safety loops, instead of the operator not believing one transmitter, we might have 2 or 3 transmitters for an installation. So it just creates more problems. We spent about a decade working on algorithms just to identify which sensor was bad. And we did not fully ever solve that problem. But there's been extensive amount of time and effort going into analyzing information so that we could make the correct decisions out of it. And my goal has always been to find software that tells me if an instrument is bad, that actually helps me and could maybe, with a good degree of confidence, have me eliminate some of this extra study on what could be the problem. So when I look at how we do it, approach it at Stanley Black & Decker, it's obviously very similar to what I had at Covestro, if anyone has seen it. But we start with the lean work and discrete manufacturing, making sure you have good material flow set up in the factory floor. But then we have a lot of automation and robotics, which I find fascinating, because in chemicals we didn't have any robotics. But we're taking all the PLCs and the connectivity and putting them in a common database, and then wanting to actually have, visualization of the data and insights, which I'm sure you're very familiar with. But here is where I see that we need to address data quality. So back in the chemical world, the operator didn't believe anything they saw that didn't match their gut, on the control screen. But in the discrete world, where we're just starting to visualize it, they're actually believing everything they see. So we want to make sure that we provide them with the correct information, or at least a way that we can do an integrity check on the data before we start using it in everything else.